something fun that I do. My kids really got me into the whole YouTube thing anyway. Mostly I just get on here and watch all my favorite vloggers and all my favorite YouTubers, and I'm big on like the reborn community and mother and baby and all that, kid parenting things on YouTube, and I see a lot of people that have gone through infant and child loss. My husband and I, we have 3 kids. Ryan is our oldest. He just turned 9, and our twins, Dylan and Zoe, just turned 7. Gone but not forgotten is my son, Connor. He was born sleeping January 26th, 2008. One of the hardest things I've ever gone through. I have 3 children now. They have the same father. Connor was prior to me and my husband getting together and getting married and having children of our own. My husband claims him, but this is going on now almost 10 years of this happening, and it's still raw. And I know that there are a lot of families, a lot of women that have gone through this. At the time that this happened, going backwards now, I was 22 years old. I had just started a brand new job as a CNA on our trauma unit at our local hospital. At the time, I had gotten out of a long-term relationship with a guy that I thought I was in love with, and we had lived together for years, and I was rebelling, doing everything that I could just to not, I guess, subconsciously not do the right thing. I had just gone wild. Like I said, I was 22. I had gotten a great job with great pay and great benefits, and I had a rental property that I was renting. It was just me and my cats. My family was right around the corner if I needed them. I had my own friends. I was making great money, paying my own bills. I could go and come as I pleased. Excuse me, guys. But I had started a 3rd shift position at our hospital, and I was working nights, and my body was getting adjusted to these new hours. I was young, I think this all aided in me getting pregnant, but, I was doing a lot of running around, drinking, doing recreational drugs, just doing everything wrong. And I met this guy through a mutual friend. And we started talking, and I wouldn't even call it dating, just hanging out. And one night we ended up sleeping together. In my mind, I was like, protection, protection, protection. And I was actually the one that initiated, hey, do you have protection? And although like the song says, my mind was telling me no, but my body was telling me yes. And I didn't say no. And I went with it. And my period's always been like clockwork. And the day I was due to start, I felt like I wasn't going to start. I mean, I was cramping, but it was mostly one-sided cramps, and I swore up and down that I was getting a cyst or something. I was like, does not feel like a period's coming. So I really was not thinking pregnancy at all. And I decided to go up to Prime Care and let them know my symptoms and be like, hey, this is what's going on with me. This is how I feel. I really think I have a cyst. And the doctor is like, is there any chance you could be pregnant? And I was like, absolutely not. There's no way I could be pregnant. I mean, gotta have sex to do that. And the doctor's like, well, have you been sexually active? I was like, well, just one time. I mean, but that was weeks ago, just one time. Doctor said that plenty, that's all it takes, which at 22 you think, hey, you should have known that, lady, especially working in the medical field. But they tested, and the doctor comes back with a little biohazard bag with a pregnancy test in it and said, well, I figured out what your problem is, and I don't know if you would consider it a problem, but this is what's causing your symptoms. He said, you're pregnant. And at 22 and not married and really having nothing going for myself besides a good job at the moment, that wasn't, I always wanted kids. I loved children, but that wasn't exactly music to my ears at that point in my life. But I'm pro-life. I'm most definitely pro-life. I always have been. My family always has been, and this is where it gets a little seedy. I broke the news to my mom, I think, before I told anybody, and of course I was 22. She tells me, you need to get an abortion. I was shocked. We were raised devout Catholics. My family was raised, devout Roman Catholic, strong Italian background. We don't believe in abortion. That's just not something we do. And I think my mom regretted it later, but what she had told me influenced me so much that I actually went as far to call and book the appointment. Never got around to even going. I said, who am I kidding? I'm not aborting my child. And I think my mom at that point had accepted it. The child's father was not somebody I was interested in pursuing a long-term relationship with, baby or no baby. Honestly, for you moms out there, your early pregnancy symptoms, there's a whole list of things that just turn you off and make you nauseous and make you vomit, make you sick, and you just don't want to see them, smell them, taste them, touch them. He was one of them. I couldn't bear the sight of him. I really had nothing to say to him. I did let him know that I was pregnant, and that was about as far as it went. We communicated on phone calls. He came over one time, and that was about all I could stomach of him. And thinking back on it now, it was just such a tough time in my life to have to go through that, and I'm tougher for it now. I still cry. Um, Connor's anniversary is coming up here in like 2 weeks, and there's still times I get really down about it. I miss him. But going back to the story, when I first found out I was pregnant, came home from work one morning and I was bleeding profusely into the toilet when I sat down to pee, and I thought for sure I was having a miscarriage. I go to the hospital. They're like, "You're having a miscarriage, honey. Go home. This is what you can expect. If this happens, come back. Otherwise, go check your OB in the morning." Well, I went home and the bleeding stopped, and I went to the OB the next morning thinking that I had a complete miscarriage, and there was a heartbeat. It turned out I had a subchorionic hemorrhage, which was basically a big blood clot sitting on the placenta amniotic sac area, bleeding around it. So basically at that point my pregnancy had a 50% chance of carrying to term anyway. So that was really scary, but that automatically made me high risk, and they followed my pregnancy just that much more closely. So going forward, a couple weeks later, at about 10 weeks, I had another scan, and at that scan, they found a devastating problem. My baby had what they call an omphalocele, which is basically a ballooning of the intestines and the stomach, and can sometimes contain other abdominal organs outside the body. That was horrifying to find out. That means major surgery from the get-go. Nobody wants to think of their newborn baby going through that, but we were like, okay, we're very religious, prayerful people, we can get through this. Later on, in the pregnancy, as things progressively got worse, we found out more and more things were wrong. He was very low on amniotic fluid the whole pregnancy, and we just couldn't figure out why. Ultimately, that is asphyxiation is what took his life, because he had no amniotic fluid left. And that is why he passed away in utero, but we just continue to find more and more problems every time we went to an ultrasound. It just got progressively worse, and we did have an autopsy done as well, and he had a very, very rare conglomerate of congenital abnormalities. We did do amniocentesis, and he was a genetically normal male baby. So, which makes it even that much worse. He would have been mentally very aware, very normal, but physically have no quality of life. They gave me option for late term abortion. I would absolutely not go for it. I said, if it's God's will for me to have this baby and take care of this child with whatever problems he comes with, then that's what we're going to prepare for, and that's what we're going to do. And if God decides to call him home because because there is no quality of life for him, then heaven is a better place, and God will make that decision. No man, no woman, but God. And God did decide. I was working at the hospital at that point in time, and I would always sneak the Doppler, the fetal Doppler, off the unit and go to the bathroom, listen to the baby's heartbeat. And one night I just couldn't find it, and it was strange. I was 22 weeks pregnant. There should be no reason why I couldn't find my baby's heartbeat. I was kind of prepared, but you're never really prepared to lose a child. But we knew the chances. I had went down to the emergency room that night because I knew something was wrong, and they just confirmed he had passed. And I ended up having to go on to the other hospital where they deliver babies in our area, and deliver him natural. They use the Cytotec pill up in the cervix to soften it, to contract, and I went through the whole 18 hours, of labor, but didn't require as much dilation and pushing because he was so small. He was only barely 12 ounces. He was 2 weeks behind in growth, so he was very, very small for his gestational age. The congenital abnormalities, I wish there was some way I could bring awareness to this. It was 1 in 400,000 births. And I want to shed light on it. I wish there was something more I can do. I hope there's something that I can do someday soon to raise awareness to this, because when I was trying to figure out what I was dealing with my son, like, why does he have this? What is it? There was very, very few stories, especially with good outcomes, with children with this issue. It was just so rare, but it's called OEIS. It stands for several different things, but my child had those plus some. He had the omphalocele, which is your O, and like I had said earlier, it's a conglomeration of the intestines, the stomach, and in his case contained testes and some other abdominal organs within that bubble outside of his body. He had severe kyphoscoliosis, which was a very severe curvature of his spine. Like scoliosis is like almost like an S, but severe kyphoscoliosis, his body, like, say your hips are straight, his upper body was, his spine was so severe that his upper body was almost twisted completely off to the side. It was incredibly sad. We found out later in the autopsy that he had no bladder whatsoever, which is why when my body stopped producing the amniotic fluid and the baby's urine should have been producing it, he didn't have any because he didn't have a bladder. He had very, very undeveloped genitalia. He had an imperforate anal opening, which means that he had no anal opening. He had a clubbed foot. Otherwise, he was a very healthy, normal baby boy. But God had better plans for him and for me. and it was devastating. The man that got me pregnant, if you would even call him that, I gave him, well, going back pedaling a few steps, we talked on the phone. When he found out there was things wrong with the baby, he just stopped calling, changed his number, dropped off the face of the earth type deal. And actually, going forward a few steps now, didn't ever call me again until I was married and pregnant with my now oldest son. Decided he wanted to ask how I was doing. Well, how do you think I'm doing? You should have seen how I was doing years ago. I mean, it's ridiculous. But anyway, going back to when I gave birth to my Connor Riley, my friend contacted him. I at least gave him the decency to show his respects to his son, and his response was, no, why would I want to see something like that? Well, that something is your son. That's a somebody, not a something. It's your loss. So that was the end of that. It was heartbreaking, but I had my mom there for me, and I had my friends and my family and my coworkers there for me at that time. They were a great support. But, going back again, we had talked to geneticists, and, we looked at backgrounds, and mine and his, and did the drugs I did before I got pregnant, or the alcohol I drank. Did I do this? Did I do that? And they said it was nothing I did or didn't do. It was just something very rarely, this was a rare thing, goes on and happens, and there was nothing you could have done to change it. It wasn't even really genetic. So that was a hard pill to swallow, and it was scary going forward having children. I think with my oldest son, I was so completely neurotic. It was ridiculous. But months later, after I'd lost Connor, we had him cremated, and I still keep him very close. And months later, I went on to rekindle a high school relationship with my now husband, and we got pregnant with my oldest son, who is now 9, and we had twins a couple years after that. They're now 7, and so we went on to have 3 beautiful, healthy children, and that was great. But I still miss Connor very, very much every day, and I wanted to shed some light on OVIS because there's just not that much information or stories about pregnancies or children that have survived or have not survived with OVIS. And also, there are so many moms and dads out there struggling from infant and pregnancy loss. And that awareness month is, I believe, in October. But losing a child is not an easy pill to swallow, and I am here for anybody that wants to talk. I've been there. I actually went to a support group through hospice called Heartstrings, and I highly recommend them. If you have a hospice in your area, you can look it up online. I'll try to link it down below for you guys, but it's called Heartstrings, and they're an infant pregnancy loss support group through hospice. But I hope that my story and my very amateur video can help somebody out there. It helped me being able to tell it to somebody. It's been a really long time since I talked about it. My husband can't handle talking about it too much, because it bothers him, and some guys they don't like to show their emotions, and it really hurts him, because he claims Connor as his own son. But he's gone but never forgotten, and he's still here in spirit. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for joining me. Please like the video. Subscribe to our channel. We're very new. You'll be seeing a lot more. Hit the notification bell in the corner next to subscribe so that you'll know when I do post another video. It will alert you. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. It was nice being able to talk to you. Bye.